Hello everyone. Thank you, Soccer, for the invitation. For those who don't know me, I'm Pierre Crypto on CT. I'm a trend momentum trader. I would describe myself that way. A former shitcoin trader turned mostly Bitcoin trader by force, I would say, over the last few years.
Hmm.
French, living in France, and 30 years old since this year.
I see. So, what made you turn to a Bitcoin trader from a shitcoin trader?
I would say, I guess if you are a trend slash momentum trader and you're not very active on chain, it's pretty much what the market made you do in any cases over the last couple of years, at least 3 years, considering that most of the trending and momentum behavior happened to the upside, which I should say mostly on Bitcoin, at least from the things that I've been watching.
Hmm.
And Basically, ever since I started to trade full time in 2021, July 2021, ever since I realized that the more I traded Bitcoin, the more comfortable I was with it, and the more I was good at it.
Hmm.
And it basically fit with the way the market has moved after that. I always go back to shitcoins, especially when we start having some sort of isolated trends and the perfect combination of trending and moment and narrative, like we've had recently with hype. Obviously, I guess everyone has this one in mind, but a little bit also with the ETH ecosystem that we've had for the last couple of months.
Hmm.
But yeah, I would say it's mostly just getting more comfortable with it, a better read of it through the years, and mostly also because of the main action happening over there.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. How did you get started
Yeah,
in
and
crypto in the first place? Like you mentioned that you started trading full time in 2021. How long have you been in crypto?
yeah, so I've been in crypto since 2017, which I guess is a classic for a lot of people.
Hmm.
But yeah, basically, I came from esports, from Counter Strike initially, and I was aware of crypto and Bitcoin particularly for before that, for through esport, but also through my studies. But I never had the money or the interest for it up until 2017, to the end of 2016, early 2017, and it's my older brother who basically got me into it,
Hmm.
like many things in life. Counter Strike also actually, and I was very rapidly hooked. And obviously, I guess like many people from that era, um, and but I would not say that I would say I've been more seriously trading since 2020,
Hmm.
and there was a before and after COVID. So yeah, in 2017, basically, I sold all my skins on CS to buy some Bitcoin, Litecoin, XRP, all of those things back in the days, which I then proceeded to lose almost fully in 2018, obviously. But yeah, after that, this is the moment I started to take trading more seriously, understood that I was definitely far from being a genius, and that if that was something I wanted to do more seriously, it would likely require to have my full dedication and attention.
Hmm.
And I then graduated from my engineering school. I worked for a couple of years, and COVID arrived, and yeah, it was a big change for me. Basically, after the end of the first curfews in France, uh, I decided to go full time and give it a try, basically.
Hmm.
And never left ever since. So I would say I'm in crypto since 2017, but actually trading more seriously since 2020, 2019, 2020 being the 2 years that really made the change for me.
It's interesting that you talk about CS:GO or like CS skins because I feel like lately they've also been up quite a lot.
Yeah,
Do you
very
like
much so.
regret the decision to sell them back then? Would it have been better
No,
to hold
I,
them?
I will. No, I will never regret selling my skins for Bitcoin back in the day. The returns have been much greater for
Hmm.
me, at least. But also because, I mean, yeah, crypto has changed my life in general. Crypto city, Bitcoin itself. I would. I don't know what my life would be today if that was not for this decision taken back in the days.
Hmm.
And so no, absolutely no regrets. I still play Counter Strike on a regular basis, but I would not come back. I would not change that decision for anything ever, to be honest.
Do you feel like there is like, since you've been playing Counter-Strike, I guess you've also been playing competitively. Do you feel like any skills
Yeah,
from that transferred over to crypto and trading?
yeah, 100%. I think, and it's something that I've discussed through the years many times, is that a lot of people, at least from the people surrounding me in crypto, I don't know about the new classes of CT or new members of the community, but at least from the people that used to be the circle in 2017, a lot of the people I know and work with today and see today as example of traders that I would like to become, most often than not, they have a strong history with competitive gaming. A lot of them, it's a mix very often of crypto and of esport and poker very often. And the amount of people I know who have pivoted in their early adult years from gaming to basically from StarCraft or CS or League of Legends or whatever to crypto is not a coincidence. And I would say that there is something that I very often say is that I'm a very competitive person. And I've always moved from one place where I could feel that there was a lot of things to do to get to a good level. Basically, I was always looking for the next place where the gap skill between being good and being very good was a big step to pass. From football when I was younger to Counter-Strike and then crypto. And when I discovered trading in general, I always say that it's the most competitive game I've ever played, and it's a never-ending learning progress curve basically. And I am never satisfied in the amount of thing I could do or could achieve to get better. And yeah, I used to play Counter-Strike 5 hours per day when I was younger, and ever since I started trading, it's probably that, but in a month, and trading took over completely, basically.
Yeah, I can definitely relate
But
to
yeah,
that. I've like I didn't come from Counter Strike, but League of Legends. But I also feel similar
yeah,
about like crypto being this like most competitive game possible, so that you can
yeah.
compete with other people, and because money is involved, it's even more competitive. I'm curious because I've only played Counter Strike a little bit and come from like a League of Legends background. Like, is there anything in particular where you could say like something that you learned during playing Counter Strike that helped you later in being a trader?
I would say I would say more the grinding part of things. I am probably the most representative mid-curve art trial trader around compared to some of the geniuses that surround us and talented trader, as I call them, when we think about people like Loma, Main, those kind of people. So I would say truly the never counting the hard grind, like the amount of time spent just to get to the next level without counting the hours and just purely grinding. And I guess you can see that maybe not from Counter-Strike itself, but the amount of people who come from the WoW era or all of those games with an entire economy inside of the game, an entire trading economy. All of those people have become very good traders for those who made the leap at some point. In CS, for me, it's more in terms of, yeah, hard grinding, super hard grinding, and just never counting the hours. Only just to feel like, okay, I can feel that there is next level. It's probably insignificant compared to the time spent, but it's worth it basically. So for me, it's more being a tryharder and yeah, being being used to spend quite some time in front of the screen
Yeah.
basically. Mostly that. Mostly that.
So that's definitely something you would say is required to become a good or even great trader.
I would not say it's required, but again, a lot of people I know around me who are considered to be very good traders have a strong history with gaming. Like I'm thinking, for example, as Krina, so LSD in my coffee on Twitter. He has a strong history of boudoir playing, so StarCraft boudoir playing and poker. And you can definitely see it and feel it in his style today and how disciplined he is and how most of his, if not all his moves are calculated risks. But like, I know that that's something everyone should do when trading, but you can literally see the way he thinks in terms of EV and in terms of risk he want to take, and trying to think not about the chart he sees, but how you would expect people to react to a market situation, to a context.
Mm-hmm.
And if not necessary, I don't think it's a coincidence that so many people we know today who are good traders have an history of either strong sports competition or esports or poker or those kind of things.
Yeah, I agree. I've also, like, for me, when I think back to playing League of Legends, one thing that it really taught me, because it's a team game, is if you want to like rise in elo and grind through the ranks, then you always have to take accountability and blame yourself. Because in a team
Yeah.
game, you really like it might offer itself that you like blame your teammates, because it's always other people in the game with you, but you're the only constant factor. And even though trading is not a team game and you are only for yourself, there it's even more important to like blame yourself and to take the accountability and be like, I actually made this mistake and not the market maker took my money or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny you say that, because it is something that we see so often, and that we've seen recently. For example, with the entire James Wine, I don't know, we should say his name, but this entire saga
Mm-hmm.
of his position being supposedly entered. I'm not saying that no one was entering his positions, but the entire way of not taking accountability for burning 100 millions. You can, when someone makes a mistake trading or take a loss or whatever, the way they react to the way they lost or they were wrong can tell you a lot about whether it was a costly mistake or if
Mm-hmm.
it's something to learn from, or if they are just going to repeat the same thing next time they have the opportunity. And accountability and responsibility, basically understanding that that's your fucking own mistake, mate. Like, you did this to yourself. And to me, at least, post 2018, that was like accepting that I was not special, that I was likely just shit,
Mm-hmm.
and that you would need quite the dedication to get to a decent level and try to make that as a living, was, in my opinion, the most important realization back in the day. And again, unless you are a very talented / gifted trader, someone that has a sense for the market quite naturally, and even those people tend to be tryharders by nature, if you can't accept that if you lost money, it's likely just because of you and you yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have you're gonna take a few more slaps in the face eventually.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that is something that, as you said, we see time and time again. If someone is coming onto the timeline with like a lot of money or they got lucky somehow or whatever, and then it just happens the same way again and again. It's quite funny to see
Yeah,
if
well,
you've been around for a while.
yeah, well, it's something that I share every first week, every month, that I've been doing since 2019 or 2020. I think it's the classic Dunning-Kruger
Mm-hmm.
effect. I don't know if you see what it is, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's I guess it's applicable to a lot of things, obviously, but it is even more true to me when it comes to the market, because eventually, if you think like you have figured it out fully, there is a storm of shit show coming your way
Mm-hmm.
sooner or later. Eventually, and we've seen that with different profile through the years on City. To be honest, like, we've seen that with, to me, one of the greatest example of ego taking over a position that could have become a multi-generational position. And I guess we're all thinking about the same thing, is the do one and the free AC situation. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you back in the day, you could feel just by the way they were posting. So obviously you can just say that it was bull posting and shit posting. You can say that, and maybe it was, but it was sweating ego and over ego, and eventually the market came and took.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the market gives, the market takes.
Yeah, for sure. The market always humbles you.
Yeah, 100%. If you don't have some, that's also something I say often, is that I always say that I'm filled with PTSD, and that
Mhm.
through the years it likely held me back from some quite crazy gains, but also likely avoided me to get wrecked. But if you spend more than a few years in crypto, more than 5 years in crypto, and you don't have a cursed list of coins you don't want to trade, some PTSD about some things, I don't know, I'm calling LARP. Like if you spend enough time on the market, you have to have some PTSD, or
Yeah,
you
for
are
sure.
you're a sociopath and you don't have any emotions, which can be a good trait for a trader. But yeah.
Do you have any examples of what has humbled you personally the most in the past? Anything that comes to mind?
I would say the entire year of 2018 was a big humbling event for me. I can think of two things. The first thing is the entire year of 2018, because obviously the harsh realization of you're not a genius, you just bought into the last legs of a extra bull market, and where everything was just basically sending, and that your mere understanding of the fundamentalities of the market and your two lines on your chart are not going to help you make up for that loss. So, which I guess is a classic for many people who started trading. Usually, the plus 1 year post bull market tends to be a very brutal one. It was mostly a realization that, okay, you were lucky buying, but you never knew when to sell. If you don't want to be in that position again, you're gonna have to find a system that you can rely on and trust enough so that you can turn your brain off whenever it tells you to do something. So it took quite some time post realization to actually getting there, and I'm actually still fighting that urge, and I'm still fighting to respect the system whenever it tells me to do things that I don't want to do, which is most often than not selling, obviously, as a bull that hurts. And the second big humbling thing to me was the entire FTX situation, mostly because it was a realization of how naive I was and how naive I've been, because I was 100% convinced until the last couple of weeks before CZ went public about the hole in the Alameda assets and exposure, basically. And up until this point, I couldn't imagine this to be true. And I was extremely blind to it. I did not get, I was lucky enough at the time to already have a strong withdrawal approach and procedure when it comes to exchanges, and keep a limited amount on exchanges, mostly because of previous situations with bitmax and those kind of things in the past. But still, like, outside of the monetary impact, which lucky enough for me was not too big relative to the rest of the folio, it was mostly just a realization, okay, you've been extremely naive, and you're not going to survive long enough in a financial market if you stay that naive. And you're literally, my main thought at the point was, you've been a bulltard of Bitcoin for the last that was in 2021, for the last few years. And yet you failed to do the classical don't trust, verify, even if we had no means to verify, but I was just blindly trusting an entity and blindly trusting a guy. So yeah, that was very humbling to me. Like, another way, just like, you're naive and you're not that smart, and you're gonna have to trust less from here.
Yeah.
And but I don't think I'm alone in that situation. But yeah, when you come out of a bull market where you once again did great, you kind of have that feeling of, okay, I am smart enough to navigate that, and I'm not going to be the one that's fooled and idiot enough to click on a link or get hacked and those kind of things. Yes, actually you can be, and it's extremely likely that you
Yeah.
are just delusional.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone on the FTX situation. At least I feel like most of the people that I talk to or that I know have been impacted by that in one form or another. I remember I never had
Yeah.
a lot of money on there, but there was always some like a little bit shady stuff going on, and you were like,
Yeah,
I don't know
true.
what's up with it. But I don't think like anyone really expected it to be as bad as it came out to be at the end.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that looking back, like when I say naive, it's not just naive, it's like refusing to see what was happening also, because looking back, there were quite the signs. Not that there was fraud at this scale, but again, you can think about some of the, once again, the ego coming up in SBF tweets,
Yeah.
the shady deals done, the some of the listing with some farming that could be done. I'm thinking of, I don't remember exactly. There was a coin, I think it was DB protocol or something. I can't remember the name exactly, but was such an obvious like fraud and crime. And again, it's pointless to look back in insight. It's obvious, like very often in trading and like very often in financial markets, it's always easier in insight. But yeah, for me, yeah, that was okay, man. Once again, you've been fooled. This time you go away quite nicely. You are not back you don't have to climb back to zero. But if it better be a lesson, like do not trust people, do not trust, particularly not exchanges. They are not they are not your friends. So yeah, it's been but yeah, always obviously much easier to say in insight, but yeah, I can assure you that I don't trust anyone in crypto ever since, basically.
Yeah, it can be pretty difficult. I definitely agree with that. I want to go back to your trading a bit more, because you said that it took you quite some time as well to find your strategy, and that you're still like building and struggling with it now. I'm wondering, have you ever, since you're like a trend momentum trader right now, have you ever tried other stuff? How long did it take you to like find what you were comfortable with?
Yeah. Again, I think pretty classical, but particularly in the first couple of years and first few months, I tried everything that I was seeing on CT. And it goes from Phoebs to Elliott waves to everything. And what in 2018, 2019, one of the realization I had, as I said earlier, is that one of the biggest issue for me was to sell, and mostly because I was always finding a reason not to. I was always finding an excuse not to sell, whether it was when I should have been invalidated, and I was always telling myself, yeah, but what if that's just a deviation? What if that's just a dip? Which I believe you get wired that way post strong bull markets. And whether it was to sell to targets, I was always telling myself, well, yes, but what if it pulls a ripple? What if it pulls a whatever? And to me, one of the only thing I could do to fight that was to have something the most simple possible, so that when I have a place where I'm supposed to cut, whether it's to the upside or to the downside, I should not have any way to argue out of it. And it's been one of my main goals through the years, is to have the most simplest approach in my books, at least, which is just a simple combination of horizontal level plus a couple of moving averages, just to smoothen the chart and the trend. And the goal is to never be able to justify not respecting the plan. And most often they are not. Sure, there will be some times where indeed I should not have cut, and indeed it kept pushing, and indeed it was a deviation. But most often they are not. That's not the case, and most often they are not sticking to the plan. Do me better than wrong, basically. So I tried a few things, but eventually I came back to the very basics of trying to play just with a couple of horizontal lines, and just trying to have a sense of the context, trying to have a sense of the overall market sentiment, the overall narratives ongoing, and trying to focus on trying not to disperse myself too much, and trying to be good at least at a couple of things and do the great, basically.
So it's like
Yeah, that's all. Sorry.
Master of all versus like, or what is it called? Like jack of all trades versus master of none. Or like being the master
exactly,
in one thing is like better than being good at nothing or good at many things.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, very much so. Very much. It's exactly that. And that's something that I always say is I try to respect my system as well as possible. And if I am entering a setup and I feel like I don't have the confidence in my exit strategy, most often than not, I end up fucking things up because my brain is too weak. It's too weak to respect things. So I try to go for things where I know that if my exit strategy is met, I should have no way to argue with myself, and it should be obvious to me to respect it.
That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. You said
But
you
it's infinitely easier said than done, and that's why I say that I'm still working on it, because I still find myself fighting invalidations, fighting targets today, and I don't know if it's something that I will cure at some point forever. I don't think so. I think, unfortunately, that's one of the parts where I'm not one of those very talented traders. But through the years, the more I respect the plan, the more I respect the system, the more I have the data that back the fact that it does me better than it does me wrong, and the more I just respect it, and the less I'm impacted also by whenever it's a fake out. I used to be very bummed out seeing that something I sold keeps pushing, or something where I got stopped out bounced back basically. But the more I trade, the more the years go by, the less I care, and the more I'm like, well, okay, you know what, fuck it, that just next time. And maybe it's experience, maybe it's just being less emotionally attached to positions, but yeah.
Probably as long as you're a discretional trader, you will never really stop feeling like a little bit of doubt or a little bit of FOMO or anything like that.
For sure. And I would also add to this part that one of the reasons I was so focused on shitcoins more than I am today, but maybe I'm telling you that, and for the next 12 months, we have some very nice trend and momentum to trade in shitcoins, and I'm going to be focusing more on shitcoins. But one of the reasons also I was more focused on shitcoins was that I've always find it much easier to exit a position in shitcoin than on Bitcoin, mostly because I never felt like that was something I was meant to hold for some time. While on Bitcoin, every time I end up not having a trade in my system and therefore not having any reasons to be positioned, I always feel naked in some way. So infinitely easier, in my opinion, to respect the system on shitcoins than on Bitcoin, but it's been less true through the years.
In what way would you say that?
I don't know. Maybe because I got more comfortable with I would say I just got more comfortable with selling in general, and just realizing that it's perfectly fine. Like there will be another trade. If I listen to the system the last few times, I would be very happy that I done so. So in order not to be salty about it like I used to be, just respect the system and just follow it. But yeah, or maybe because I'm less of a bulltard than I was. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, maybe a combination of plenty of things, probably.
I feel like if you've seen the market go up and down a couple of times, like throughout the years, and you, as you say, you realize that selling is actually the better idea. At least sometimes you have to sell.
I regretted more often not selling than to sell. It's what maybe I'm coping, but that's why I tell myself when I'm second thinking or when I'm doubting a take profit or a stop loss. I always tell myself, I've rarely told myself that I was mad about selling, but I was very often mad at myself for not paying myself. So yeah, that's basically that. It's basically, do you still want to be mad at yourself because you didn't respected the plan you had initially, when you know from your journal that most often than not you should do so? Then yeah, it's the classical Dwight Schrute The Office quote, like every time I'm about to do something, I ask myself if that's the stupid thing. If that's the stupid thing, I don't do it. And I try to apply that the more as the time goes, basically.
Yeah, that's a good rule, definitely.
Much easier said than done.
Yeah,
Again,
for sure,
100%. But at least if you're aware of it, you have something to work on, basically.
Has all this approach also helped you? Since you said that you mostly trade or focus on Bitcoin nowadays, I imagine that you might feel or might have felt in the past like a lot of FOMO when you miss out on other stuff through that. Has that also helped you with dealing with that?
Yeah, very much. It that used to be one of the main. That used to be a big struggle, obviously. But I've been fortunate enough to rarely see myself not in Bitcoin when Bitcoin makes big moves. So I've never felt that much. I felt FOMO from seeing it pushing still while being less exposed, but never fully naked.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think that's the 101 of anyone trading crypto and Bitcoin in general is that at some point you're gonna feel that way, and the way you react to it is you bend the knees and succumb to the FOMO or not is what's
Mm-hmm.
going to define you. Uh, less again less. It's been it's been a big reason also why I've ended up trying to focus on riding trends.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One of the realization outside of not being good at selling in 2018 was also the fact that I was not Kobe, and the odds for me to pick or call a bottom on Bitcoin was, or a pick or top was likely to be close to non-existent,
Mm-hmm.
or at least not easily reproducible. Like, is not easily something I could do through cycles. Uh, you can get lucky a couple of times, and you can get lucky enough so that you can call the top and the bottom sometimes, but that's not going to be enough to define the trading strategy that you're going to be able to replicate. And that's one of the reasons I ended up forming some sort of rules about more of a when approach than a where approach, where
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to care much where I'm buying, but if or selling, obviously, but if my system at least tells me that there is a trend forming or a trend to ride, then the when is more important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it has helped a lot with the FOMO approach because you ride more, you sell higher. Eventually, you give some back because if you're riding the trend, the odds for you to give back whenever it starts to break is big. You're likely not to sell or buy the bottom or sell the top. But it's gonna help if you're someone that struggle with FOMO. That's gonna help smoothing things up a little
Mm-hmm.
bit because you're gonna keep some exposure to things as they go up.
Well, we're talking about all of this stuff. I'm kind of thinking that if you're new to trading, you're looking for a system, you're looking how should you do things, what should you follow. But I feel like the system isn't even that important. It's almost more important to like convince yourself why you should even follow it in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, very much, very much. Again, as I was saying earlier, if you're like me, and statistically you are, if you're a mid-curve art trial trader like me, which is the majority of people on the market, in the market, the you should need your goal building your system should be to find something that fits your lifestyle. Obviously, not everyone is meant to be a turbo Chad lower time frame scalper like we can see in CT. Not everyone's
Mm-hmm.
gonna have the balls to hold Bitcoin for a decade. You're gonna have to find something that fits your lifestyle, and you're gonna have to find something where you leave little room for arguing with the system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that. I think it's important sometimes to know when you should deviate from the system, whether it's to decide to go hard or to be more cautious than your system should tell you, whether it's from external news, whether it's from whatever things that can impact the market. So you're gonna have to leave some room for gut feeling, obviously. And by my experience, at least, is that the more you trade, the more room you can leave and for gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But at least in the first few years, the formative years, you should find a system where you're comfortable almost blindly respecting it. And the odds that it does better than your monkey brain are pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually you can adapt things to be more fluid and to leave more room to your gut feeling and things like this, obviously. But in the first place, finding what you need to work, and how you can find a way to make it something systemic is obviously crucial. And as I said, for me, it was mostly fighting emotions, fighting FOMO, fighting basically not willing to learn to sell. Just that, like always finding an excuse not to do so. Only to see the UPNL retrace, only to see the initial stop loss you had being a good stop loss, and you end up taking a much bigger hit than needed, and you're gonna need 5 more trades to even just catch up with that, basically.
Do you see yourself trading forever, or is there a point where you would stop? Is there something else that you would do in your life if you wouldn't do this?
Until I have kids, I feel comfortable telling you that I will probably trade my entire life. I mean, I love it too much to stop, I think. But maybe there is a point where you need to learn to stop doing it, to where you're gonna have to. It should not be your main source of income, your main source of revenue. It should not be anymore something you're relying too much. I'm thinking about some people, for example, like Donald on City, where we've seen him through the years transition from a pretty active trader to now he has always been more of a swing trader than a lower time frame trader, but he used to be much more active in the market. And as he formed the family and as things have evolved, we can see him now take 2 trades per year, at least publicly. Maybe he takes more than that, but I don't think I will ever stop trading, but the odds that as life evolves and I have a family on my own, I trade less, I think are pretty big. But as of today, I cannot find any justification beside maybe me losing it all eventually, until and as long as I do fairly well, I don't see a reason for me to stop. Maybe at some point, just like it happened when I went from CS to trading, maybe at some point I will find something that will take away the spotlight from trading in my life. But as of today, it's not the case. I really like the lifestyle that I've managed to build around this activity, and like how much it freed already some time for me to do other things and focus on other things. And yeah, I just like it too much. Like I always feel like every time I feel like a little bit bored, or that's something that I'm less interested in, I take a couple of weeks off, and when I'm back, I'm just hooked as I was a month before. So I would be lying if I was saying that I would be trading forever, but I would be lying if I was saying that I don't see myself trade for much longer still. But I guess we'll see. We'll see where we are eventually. But I love it too much.
Since we talked about your struggles already, has there ever been a moment where you were like close to giving up, or have thought of giving up? And was there something that helped you through not giving up? Maybe like the grinding from CS days?
So 2018, 2019, I was very close to giving up. One of the main, if it was not for City, if it was not for crypto Twitter and the people I met back in the days, I would have probably quit trading and quit crypto in 2018, early 2019, after devastating losses and just really bad round trips. But it's at this time that I've met some people I still work with today, and that I consider to be some of the best friends I have in life still today. And if it wasn't for City back in the day, I would have probably quit. But yeah, maybe it's just me romanticizing City as it was compared to what it really was. But I would have 100% quit if I didn't have to meet, if I didn't meet Krillin, Loma, Yubi. At some point at this time, I was talking with them more than I was talking with IRL friends and family, and at some point even girlfriend, to be honest. And yeah, we were just purely grinding. As you said, the tryharding and the grinding from CS at this time, especially 2019, it was not like today where you had. I mean, we already had some options to short Bitcoin and short ETH and a couple of things, but outside of that, until we had the first IEOs on Binance with the first perps on Binance for Matic and all of those things, until then, your main option to trade was spot, and most basically you were either long Bitcoin, either long shitcoins, but you didn't have much more of different things to do.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, maybe there was, and I was just not aware of it. But so the only option was to scan all day and grind and try to find a way to beat the system in shitcoins.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very fun game to play. That was a very fun way of grinding your net worth and your folio. And 100% 2018, 2019. Ever since, I've never thought about quitting, but I can remember very well I think it was June 2022, or was it June 2023? Basically, at the moment where it was a month before BlackRock announced their Bitcoin ETF application.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had news about SEC suing Coinbase and Binance, and with a list of shitcoins that they were considering securities. I think that was June 2022, but I'm not 100% certain, so maybe I'm mistaken, but I think that was it. I think that was June 2023. So
I'm not
was
sure.
already the bottom for Bitcoin was already set. The post FTX shit show already happened.
Mm-hmm.
But when that news dropped, which eventually became a local bottom for the market before the BlackRock Bitcoin news, I would have not. I didn't want it to quit trading, but at this time, I remember telling myself for the first time since I joined crypto that I would put the odds for the industry to survive in less than 50%,
Mm-hmm.
and not. I would have found something else to trade, but it was the last time that I was really thinking, okay, can this industry actually survive to these kind of attacks?
Mm-hmm.
And then a month later, we had the BlackRock ETF application news, and it sparked the momentum for the rest that we know today. But beside these two moments, I never really thought about quitting, probably because addicted too much, and because dopamine and serotonin receptors are fried enough to that there will be nothing that will match trading.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not since then. And in both cases, it's mostly because of CT that I felt reassured enough to just stick around and let things pass, basically. So I know that a lot of people like to shit on CT, but I personally owe the life I have today to CT.
Mm-hmm.
So I will forever be posting on CT, and I will forever be grateful for the people on CT that I met through the years.
I can tell you something funny because that may validate your decision looking back. It's already been validated, but like some additional anecdote, I guess, because I've also been in crypto since 2017, and I wasn't like really into trading back then. I was more into like the technology side and all of that. And after the collapse happened in 2018, I became so disillusioned because back then there was no smart contracts, or there were smart contracts, I guess, but there was no DeFi, no NFTs, nothing, and you couldn't really use crypto to pay for anything either. So I thought it's useless, and basically I left. And I wasn't on Twitter back then either. I was only like scrolling on Reddit or stuff like that. So I didn't really have that community. And then I only came back, I think, in May of 2021. I basically came back, wired over some money to Binance and bought the top. And one day after, everything crashed 40%. But that time I decided to stay around, which proved the right choice. But that is definitely one of my biggest regrets, that I didn't stay around back then.
Implode, basically.
Yeah. But that time it was fine, you know. I just regret that I wasn't on CT back then, as you said, when it was like the really in 2017, 2018 and stuff like that. I think that must have been a really fun time to be on CT.
Yeah, again, I think, and that's something you always do in life about pretty much everything. But I personally, probably, I'm seeing CT better than it was, just because old is always best.
Yeah.
Especially as you grow up. But maybe there are some parts of city today that I'm just not aware of, that are just exactly like the city I used to know. But in any cases, I still think that despite all the shit that we like to say about city, I still think it's one of the most incredible community we have on the
Mm-hmm.
internet.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most reliant, like crazy, with
Mm-hmm.
an insane amount of lore, but also an insane amount of, like, it's pretty crazy to think that a lot of people we know on City are probably in their 20s, early 30s. Let's say crypto disappear tomorrow. Everything that you've learned in the market is likely something that's going to be very useful to you, for you,
Mm-hmm.
in any other market in the future. Like, when I speak with some friends who are working in TradFi, I'm always fascinated by the lack of experience they have about market. I'm not saying all of them. Obviously, you
Mm-hmm.
have extremely talented and very, 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 very competent people in TradFi, but I've always seen CT as a way to speed run your process. If you use CT correctly, obviously. If you're just around to shit on people and say dumb shit, that's not gonna help.
Mm-hmm.
But like the amount of 25 years old lads on CT who are probably out trading TradFi lads who are paid 6 digits per year, it's pretty fucking insane to me. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's despite everything, despite the fair share of scumbags that are something you can't avoid on the internet, I still think it's an incredible community.
Yeah, I agree for sure. It's like it's kind of like a place that I call home. Even I guess I'm like on there every day.
Yeah,
I've met so many people from there, so many friends. It's like I wouldn't really trade it for anything, even if it can be shitty sometimes. And I feel like even for me, I've only joined in 2021, and it has definitely like the quality has definitely decreased since then.
yeah.
But it's still one of the best places to be for sure.
And it's something that I tried to do over the past 6 months. I tried to get back to a more regular posting than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of time on Discord and on Telegram and on those things, and less on City than I used to. But I feel like you don't have the right to complain about the state of the community if you don't try to do what you think would fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I see City is the way you want it to be. If Of course, if you're still just following the 2012, 2016 people who probably fucked off on an island by now, or completely lost the plot, it feels like it's one or the other. Of course, if you're following them, your feed must be empty and you likely don't have much to browse. But if you dig a bit, you will always find some new traders, some new people who are trying to share things, share stuff. Like, one of the prime example for me over the past couple of years has been Crypto Nexus. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if it's his name particular. Yeah, it's the Crypto
Yeah, yeah.
Nexus. Like, for example, he joined in 2021. He has been a very interesting account to follow. He went from he publicly and transparently built his net worth.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Hyperliquid, but not only. Like, people always think it's just. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that you can always find new accounts to follow that are going to providing value,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, just make City what you want it to be. And if you have the capacity to share content, just try to do so, basically.
Mm-hmm. I think it's very admirable that you still share educational content after all these years, that you're still like there and try to give people knowledge and all of that, because I feel like that's definitely back in the day I feel like that was a way bigger part of what CT was, like sharing knowledge or
Yeah,
being like a bit more serious. I feel like shitcoining and all of that like pump fun and Solana stuff kind of decreased the quality in that a bit, because it's also
yeah,
made a lot of new participants come, which isn't like necessarily a bad thing, but it's just like different than before, and that's why I
yeah.
think it's
It's
really good what you're doing.
I guess the pump fun part, main issue is mostly that at the moment we accepted that everything was a shitcoin and everything was vaporware outside of Bitcoin. I think that's what some people call financial nihilism. like basically just accepting that everything is trash anyway. I feel like it opened the Pandora box for people who wanted to extract mass value without having to do much more. And it also threw away the idea that you would need more than just buying blindly a couple of things and hope that at some point we wake up and it's up $1 million%. But again, it's the way the market has moved. It's the way the market it's the thing that the market has decided to focus on over the past 2-3 years. I had this big long idiocracy thesis following FTX. And even in my wildest expectation, I could have never foresee the amount of dumbness that we've seen. But again, you can cry about it. But the truth is just that's the way the market has decided to shift, and that's where a lot of action happened.
Yeah.
I cannot say that I've been a very big pump fund user. If there is ever an airdrop, I'm likely not to be particularly impacted by that. But yeah, it's where a lot of fun happened, and I don't think you can deny that. But yeah, I do what I know to do, and what I know to do is try to share some detailed, almost daily Bitcoin and ETH analysis to whoever read and to whoever it can help. Good. So I just keep doing what I know to do, also because I just like it, to be honest. I find it fun to share, and I would have never grew as a trader as I am today if I didn't publicly shared my progresses, my struggles. A lot of things that I improved on through the years comes from the fact that I shared things publicly, and that I've got feedbacks. I've got some people asking questions. By asking questions, I found that I was not able to answer the questions simply, and that it was probably a sign that I needed to work better on it. If I cannot answer simply why I see things and why I do things, it likely means that I will at some point let my brain fuck things up. So I think it's, I always say that. I always say if you're looking to improve and to speedrun your process, publicly sharing the trades you take, I'm not saying to share size or whatever. Honestly, most often than not, we don't care. But sharing your thoughts, sharing your ideas, maybe sometime you're going to speak in the wind and no one is going to answer. But if you have a few people following you who interact with you regularly and you end up discussing market with them, it's going to help you a lot. And if you think about taking a trade you will not publicly share, it's probably a trade you don't want to take anyway.
Even if you're not only thinking about trading CT, that's something that I've always heard other people say, and I can definitely say that it's true. It's like if you're just in the community and you're interacting with people and you just DM people, there's so much value that you can gain from that, so much knowledge that people are just willing to share, or so much that you can learn from others that are maybe so much more advanced than you, that have been there for so much longer, but they just share it because they also just want someone to talk to. It's fun to like share your knowledge and stuff like that. So that's a really
100%.
big advantage.
100%. And we are talking about a place where with 2 clicks you can go on CryptoCred channel, Twitter account, and you have a full PDF of things that you should learn, that you should read at least one time in your trading career. It's just one example that shows that there is so much you can gain by interacting on CT and trying to find things, find accounts, still sharing stuff and things like this. And but yeah, as you said, personally, it's because I was sharing things publicly in 2018, end of 2018, that I ended up being put in a group chat with that Crypto Tunes back in the days created. And I ended up chatting on a daily basis with people like Loma, Krillin, and it really changed everything for me, because I was not just that crazy that crazy guy in the back of the bus screaming in the void. I actually had some other people to talk about, and it has shaped my view of the market and my trading immensely. And maybe that's not for you. Maybe you're much more of a solo player and you don't feel the need to do so, and you have the self-discipline to not have to publish things or to share things publicly, to stick to them and to respect them. But honestly, there is little downside to share your thoughts and ideas on CT compared to the upside you can get, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Since this is a terminal podcast, I also want to talk a bit about execution. We already talked about this a bit before the recording, and I wanted to ask, like, how big of an impact would you say execution has on your trading, and how has it evolved, like, during the years?
I feel like it's something you take seriously the more you go. And yeah, I feel like this is a big part of your system, but also often sometimes you work on the last, basically. And it kind of felt like this for me, at least. I used not to care too much, but mostly because I was not keeping track of the impact that I had just market buying blindly instead of waiting for the limits to be filled, or things like this. And eventually, when you reach the point where you feel like you're comfortable enough with your system and you're trying to find optimization, you end up digging into execution, and again, it's a Pandora box. You realize how much you can gain just by being cautious about things and by executing intelligent. And it's not just about not being an ape that markets everything, but it's also, for me, the execution also includes timings and windows of opportunities and windows where you can be less or more aggressive depending on what you're playing. So to me, it was kind of the last thing I worked on, and ever since, it's the main thing I work on. And the main thing, I as I was telling you, I feel like if I was blindly following the system, I would do great. But it's the human part of the process that fucks things up eventually, and I include that in the execution part, to me. And so yeah, it's to me, this is where the never-ending grind is, to me, and the optimization. And if that's the case for me, who have a fairly small folio compared to some of the chads I know in the market, I cannot even imagine some of those people I know who trade immense sizes. Like, this is the name of the game for them, basically. Like, at this point, it's mostly just the way they execute their trades. I'm thinking, for example, about Loma in particular, who's known to be trading big size. He is to a point where if execution is not his main issue, his main attention, you cannot trade 8 digits position if you're not someone cautious, basically.
I feel like also if you use some kind of journaling software or whatever, and then you see like how much you paid in fees over all of your trades, and then you see like how much you would have paid if you just use limit orders instead of markets or something like that, then you definitely realize what the value in good execution is.
That's why I'm telling you that it's when you take the time to dig and you're like, damn, that was 3-4 nice trades, and yet the maths are not mathing. And you're like, and then you dig deeper, you try to keep track of things, whether you use a terminal that allows you to do so or just manually, but obviously using the terminal is infinitely better for that. And yeah, you realize that you're just a fucking ape. There was a post about this. I can't remember exactly who shared this lately. I think it's I Like Blocks, Benny Dubos on Twitter, who shared a post recently about the difference between waiting for limits instead of marketing. Was it him or Gian? I can't remember, but one of those two people who have been very active lately on City. And yeah, I speak with a lot of new traders, and sometimes and most of them are not. They will tell you that they are market buying everything. And to me, it's a signal of training on impulse more than respecting a system and a setup. If you have a setup and a system you respect, unless it's a contextual setup, like for example last Friday during the early Israel bombing Iran moment, where you don't necessarily add a plan at first, but you want to react to the event, then I guess it can make sense to be impulsively trading and therefore market buying or market selling. But if you have a system and a plan at first, you likely have zero reasons to be to not wait for your limits to be filled.
Yeah.
And if you end up deviating from that, we come back to the initial point that I was saying, that you are letting your brain in the middle of the plan you had initially, and you increase the chances of fucking things up immensely. You initially had a plan, you had your limit orders set, and you see yourself 5 hours later market buying 2% above what you had in mind. What are the odds that you come back to these 5 hours later and you see some red UPNL and you end up fucking the initial plan off, and you completely destroy the initial idea you had? And again, as someone that's been fighting to my brain off of that, then it's been a second realization when I realized the impact that it had on my trading, that this is something I can basically, that the idea was, it's something complex that I know it's hard to work on but can be easily fixed. It's hard to accept, but on paper it's easily fixed because you should just stick to the orders. So it's a simple thing to fix, but it's a hard thing to do.
I've also had that in the past when I, like, for example, I saw someone shared like a trade idea on CT, and then I just blindly market bought in. Or at that point, it's not even about market or limit buying, but like, I feel like execution is not only about how you do it, but also like how much time do you take to actually think about what you want to do here. And sometimes I just used to think like, hey, maybe this is a good idea, I should just do this right now. But if you were a bit more patient, then you could even like wait until the structure on the chart maybe like pulled a bit back so that you can find a better entry, and then the trade is already like a lot better than if you just blindly buy or sell when you think it might be a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. And for example, someone around me that I speak with on a daily basis was very good at it, and I believe it comes from his past in poker and boudoir, is Krina. When I was saying earlier that he approaches things very methodically, and the way he enters or exits position, the way it adjusts the risk as it goes, and the way he entered. And I learned a lot from him just seeing him execute his trades. And even if we have almost a 1-1 system, we built the system we have together through the years. So we have a very similar view of the market. We have a very similar system, and very often we are in very similar positions. But I realized through the years that 8 times out of 10 on the same trade, he would have a much better entry and or a much better risk reward in the setup. And it was just, that was the main, we had the main same idea, but he was much more cautious on whether that was something he was willing to go for a more aggressive entry, or something where he knew he wanted to wait for the closest to the place where he thinks it could be invalidated to enter rest of position, whatever. But basically, same trades, same ideas, not same ideas, but in the end, he was gaining much more than me, and having he was just executing much better than me. And maybe that's because he's much more of a, he's just a much more disciplined lad than I am. And maybe it comes down to the fact that he's a bold autistic chat. But yeah, that was also a big realization to me, because when you basically realize you're taking the same trades than another person, but he has much better results than you, and it only comes down to the way, when, and where he enters and exits, while you had the exact same idea, that means that it's in the details that you're gonna find your next step, basically.
Yeah, I feel like if we circle back to like the idea of crypto or trading as like a game, or like the best, biggest competitive game, this is like the small things that differentiate a good trader from like a great or a really, really amazing trader.
Yeah, very much. That's something I also often say, is that to me, you're gonna have talented traders who have a taste for the market. Like they see things, they feel things much better than the average Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And if you combine it with a strong discipline and with a clean execution, these are unstoppable people,
Yeah.
and on the market at least. And they tend to be the people you're gonna see who are going to be able to have a generational run at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not luck. Like I know you would. I know it's easier to tell yourself it's luck, because if it's luck, it means that it hasn't worked more than you do.
Mm-hmm.
But most often than not, it's not luck. It's not coincidental. Obviously, sometimes it's gonna be, but the truth is that they just put more work. They are more disciplined. They are more cautious. They are and they think about details you don't think about. When
Mm-hmm.
they start trading on a new exchange, they're gonna read the documentation. They're gonna know exactly the way they're going to be paying things and fundings. They're gonna know exactly what are the limits of the sizing they're gonna be able to put wherever they want to trade.
Yeah.
And they're just going to put this extra detail work that's going to differentiate them from the rest,
Mm-hmm.
even if the underlying idea and the underlying BAs and direction is the same.
Yeah. The details are.
And to me, it's so interesting. To me, that's one of those things I find fascinating about trading, is that yeah, you have basically, most of the people who struggle with trading, or when you have some struggles in trading, most often than not, you already know deep inside of you what you should do to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
You know exactly what the other people who are doing better than you are doing that you could do,
Mm-hmm.
and you should do if you actually want to the next level. And that makes the grinding very interesting, because yeah, it's a self battle. I guess it's a very common thing to say about market, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
it's so true. It's so fucking true. And I've seen it through the years. I see it still today. There are still things that I know I should do that I postpone up until the point where I'm like, okay, I've been stalling. I don't feel like I'm progressing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fucking do what they do at some point.
Yeah.
And you end up doing it and you feel the difference. And if you don't, it's fine, but at least you tried.
Yeah, that's something that you only really realize once you do it. As you said, like people always say it, people always talk about this, but unless you do it yourself and put your mind into all of these details and stuff like that, you don't really realize how much it actually matters or
Exactly.
how it actually works.
Exactly. And yeah, it's the devil is in the details. I think that's what people say. And yeah, again, I've been on CT and I've been in crypto for long enough to know that most of the chat traders we know and see at some point I've went to a point where they are just doing this extra stuff that makes them better than the others.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be many things. It can be coding your own tools. It can be focusing on a part of the industry, on a narrative, to the point where you get a strong edge over it. It can be through understanding the infrastructure where you trade. There are many ways to do so, and all the time it's always the same story. It's that lad that actually went and read the white paper, that actually went and read the documentation, that actually understand what's actually happening and what he's doing and what he's using for his trading, and it just makes him a better trader. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that if you do that you're going to be a Chad. I'm not saying that doing so you're going to be the next GCR. I'm just saying that if you've been trading for some time and you're looking to progress on some things, there are details, there are things you can work on that can seem pointless at first, but can be useful eventually,
Yeah,
and can help you just dig and find some edges in the market. And there are many ways to do so, but yeah.
for sure, for sure. One more thing that I'm curious on your opinion is, since you said that you trade on multiple venues, and a
Yeah.
topic that has been very popular recently, I guess, is obviously Hyperliquid.
Yeah.
What do you think about the future of trading on like perp stexes versus centralized exchanges, and how that is going to develop? Do you have any opinions on that?
I uh, I think the next few months are going to be very interesting for the future of Hyperliquid. I think I was personally extremely pessimistic on the idea of DEX trading,
Mm-hmm.
mostly because I feel like I was stuck with the GMX experience and basically thought that we couldn't get anything better than that. And unfortunately for me, it costed me a very expensive airdrop.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up getting some, but not to the point of the likes of Nexus or other people. And I've been more than happily surprised by the quality of the experience I had trading on Hyperliquid. And I'm one of those people who are the narrative of Hyperliquid, because my government, to protect me, after kicking me from Binance and Bybit and back in the day sending us to FTX, but that's another subject, my government, to protect me, has taken away from me Binance and Bybit, basically. And Hyperliquid is one of those venues where I can trade with size. Not that I trade with size, but with liquidity, and it's a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that I'm more optimistic for DEXs than I was a year ago, and I was clearly lacking the vision, because otherwise I would have been trading on Hyperliquid from this day.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we can also we're gonna have some very interesting months ahead, because we're gonna see if that the way the market share of Hyperliquid sticks now that perpetual are going to be accessible to US users, basically. We've seen the news last week, I think, that Coinbase perps were coming. I don't know if that's going to be the one that people are going to use, and if, because Coinbase is accessible, people are going to, from the US, are going to shift from Hyperliquid to Coinbase.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the market and how Hyperliquid behaves. The news dropped last week that didn't prevent the Hyperliquid to pump a new all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the token valuation is not a good representation short term of the actual narrative and what could be in the future.
Yeah.
But I want to be optimistic. I want to be optimistic mostly because I think what we need now in crypto is not a new L1, is not a 15 version of Solana or if Ethereum. We need applications and we need things for people to use.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just the oldest use case, an exchange for crypto, but at least it works and it's used. And it's been one of those applications through the cycle that's became popular and being used. Like I can only think of Pump Fun, which can be seen in form of an exchange, obviously, but more of a launcher. Betting markets, Polymarket, and what's the name of the other? I can only think of Polymarket. But anyway, Polymarket and Hyperliquid. And out of those names, we haven't seen much developing, but I do think that it's from applications that the next wave of users are going to come, whether it's from DeFi or whether it's from something like Hyperliquid. So cautiously optimistic, and I think it's a good step for the market, but there is obviously this overshadow of regulation on top of Hyperliquid, plus the arrival of bigger names in the perpetual fights, accessible to US users.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting to see all of that combines, and the way Hyperliquid manages or not to rise off of that.
But I feel like as long as it has a good product and it's only really like dangers
Exactly.
are regulation and competition, I think most other successful crypto products of the past have also faced that. And I feel the same
Yeah,
way.
well,
Like if I wasn't, when I used it last year, I didn't feel too amazing about it. It was just another perp tax, I guess. But over the time, I realized it's actually kind of a good product. And I'm a very pessimistic person usually when it comes to crypto apps because of like what we've seen in the past years. So I'm like just very glad that we have something that actually like works and does something and that people want to use. I think that in and of itself is also already a really good thing.
It works, and it's used.
Yeah.
It's two things that do not define most of the crypto we know. And something that works and is used is already quite the step, if you ask me. So yeah, same as you. And as we discussed through the podcast, if you've been in crypto long enough, I believe that at some point you become a bit pessimistic about the industry and the overall things that have been built. Like, yeah, pretty much the cycle we've got shit like friend tech and all those kind of things. So when something's actually working and people are actually using it, may as well embrace it and
Yeah.
hope for the best, basically. So that's the main thing for me. And as someone that uses it, like, and again, as someone that uses it because I was pushed away from central exchanges from my government, the narrative, and to be honest, that's one of my main regret this cycle, is that when I got pushed away from Binance and Bybit, that should have been, if I was not a lazy bastard, I should have seen that as a strong signal that let's dig a little bit where I can trade on chain and what seems to be a good option for that. If I was not a washed up city trader, I should have. It should have been much clearer for me 18 months ago to be bullish on Hyperliquid, much more than I was. And but yeah, it is how it is. It is how it is. But yeah, it's a proven narrative. It worked well. Congratulations to anyone who have been airdropped the Hyperliquid token. And let's hope for the best. And it's gonna be very interesting to see how it develops in the next few months.
Yeah.
And while bigger competitors try to come and take a part of the pie.
I definitely feel your cope a bit about missing out on the airdrop, because I sold most of mine very, very early. But as Flat is saying, it's still cheap, not financial advice.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could not be happier of the way I traded post airdrop. I will likely never catch up to the amount I could have made if I received a good airdrop. But again, as we discussed through the podcast, I feel like the more you spend time in the market, the more you're gonna face opportunities that you missed, the less it impacts you. If I was wrongly not bullish enough, despite the context that should have made me bullish, at the very least, I did not repeat the mistake post listing, and it's been on top of my watch list ever since.
Yeah.
And so again, I will very likely never make generational money compared to some people did on Hyperliquids, but that's the story of my life. I'm bound to be forever tryharding and forever grinding, but I'm happy with the way I've traded it ever since, and I'm coping that way.
As long as you have fun in the grind, I guess it's not too bad.
Oh yeah, it's fine. And again, I've seen. I accepted long time ago that I was not built like some of those people, conviction wise, to write something. Like, I know, for example, that if I received a sizable airdrop from Hyperliquid, the odds for me to have sold a majority of it very rapidly instead of holding all the way up to $45 are immense. Like, there is very little odds where I would have kept the entire bag and where I would have waited and survived the $23 to $9 retrace, basically. So I can picture an imaginary world where I would have held it all, or I can accept and remember who I am and know that in any cases I would have very likely sell it much before, and it's fine. Fuck it. Let's at least try to trade it well after, and that's it. There is not much else you can do anyway. You can keep crying, but it's not gonna give you an airdrop.
That's true. Yeah, I think this is a good point to wrap it up. Is there anything that you want to share at the end where people can go to find you?
Not necessarily. Just thank you very much for the conversation. That was very, very cool, very nice. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Thank you guys at the Insilico terminal through the years to have given us a tool to simplify our life on a daily basis. Even if I've been using it less ever since I've been trading in a couple of concentrated plays compared to before. But in any cases, thank you very much for all the stuff you guys do, especially considering it's a free tool. So yeah, just props to you guys and thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And I hope that my broken French English was good enough and that
Yes,
it's not
yes.
gonna push people away from the podcast. And I hope you're gonna have some success with that podcast in the future also.
Thank you very much.